support him. He blew them kisses in court, made gestures across his heart. But once the opening statements began, Combs was much more dispassionate. At one point, as a man who says he was paid to have with Cassie Ventura while Sean Combs sat on the corner. Combs pushed his chair away from the defense table.
I don't know any father that would want their children to sit through testimony about how much their daddy liked to watch people lubricated.
Those who like to stupidly comment, well, why didn't she leave? She said she didn't have the resources and she didn't feel safe to do so. In her own words, I understood Sean's capabilities, his access to guns, and the threats that he made prior to that. Later, Diddy not only threatened to have her freak-off tapes released, but that he would harm not only her, but also Kid Cudi, which I'm sure you know he's very capable of doing so. Cassie said he told her that he wouldn't be harming her and Kid Cudi with his own hands, and it would happen when he was out of the country.
Welcome back. Let's spill the tea on today's biggest celebrity stories. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to get your daily dose of scandal and glamour. So, most people already heard about Diddy's daughters walking out of that courtroom, but what no one's telling you is why. They didn't just stand up and bounce like they had better plans. Nah, it was way deeper than that. One of the girls was shaking so bad it looked like her legs were gonna give out. Another, she looked like she was about to puke right there in front of everybody. And the third, she just sat there, eyes locked on the floor, frozen, like her whole world had just split in half. This wasn't some awkward family drama. This was 3 young women, barely legal, being forced to sit in that courtroom while total strangers stood up and described their dad in the nastiest, most humiliating way possible. We're talking about dirty hush money, escort hookups, freak-off parties, violent videos, even whispers that one of their classmates might have been involved in some of this twisted mess. It wasn't just uncomfortable, it was sickening. And whatever they heard, it was enough to make him get up and walk out for good.
Not only because he had left, he was in the back of the court and then he went, I think they took up to like a back room, but the you know, all the Diddy kids are there, right? So his daughters are there. I was sitting behind them. It was awkward for me to watch them have to listen to all of this. After he started, the male Esther started getting into a lot of the and stuff, they got up and left.
Who told him to leave? Did Diddy say leave or?
No, Diddy didn't tell them to leave. I don't know if there was a conversation or not. I looked up from writing and I saw them get up, so I don't know. But I know that they were like checking on each other throughout. I saw them ask like Christian at one point.
This ain't just messy, it's straight up evil. So let's rewind for a sec and break down exactly what went down in that courtroom and why folks are whispering like crazy. See, Diddy's daughters didn't just walk out because they were embarrassed. Nah, word is something dropped in that courtroom that cut deep. Something way too close to home. And whatever it was, it hit them like a gut punch and made them question everything they thought they knew. And get this was all on day 1. It kicked off when Cassie strolled into that courtroom like she owned it. Calm, glowing, and pregnant, like she'd already won the war. This ain't just any ex. This is Cassie Ventura, the woman who used to be Diddy's ride or die, now standing tall as the star witness for the prosecution. She didn't blink. She didn't cry. Not even when the cameras started flashing like crazy. And let's not forget, this is the same woman who was allegedly dragged down hotel hallways, kept silent through violence, and turned into a puppet for Diddy's twisted fantasies. And now, she was finally about to speak, and the whole courtroom felt it. Now she's standing firm, 10 toes down, belly full of new life, eyes ice cold locked on the man who tried to break her. But here's what sets Cassie apart. She ain't hiding behind sealed files or fake names. Nope. While everybody else in this case is ducking behind anonymous labels, Cassie walked in bold and used her real name. She came to speak, and when she did, it felt like the whole courtroom forgot how to breathe. The room was packed wall to wall, lawyers shoulder to shoulder, reporters scribbling fast, even federal agents lined up in the back like they already knew history was about to be made. And the second that judge gave her the green light, Cassie unloaded. She didn't hold back, not even for a second. It wasn't just testimony. It was like watching someone drag their pain out into the open and burn it all down in front of the world. She said the freak-offs, not rumors, real. Not one-time things. Regular, planned, and worse. Filmed for blackmail. According to her, Diddy flew her out to Vegas, Miami, LA, Turks and Caicos, all to lock her up in hotel rooms with random men. And what was he doing? Sitting in the corner watching. sometimes in total silence. Other times, giving directions like he was shooting a twisted music video from hell. Sometimes, touching himself while it all went down. And just when you think it couldn't get more disturbing, she said these things lasted days, 5 hours at a time, over and over again. This wasn't just trauma, it was torment on loop. The second she tried to leave, the punishment came fast and brutal. A slap, a kick, a phone smashed to pieces, a mirror shattered into shards. The courtroom went dead silent, but not from peace. It was that kind of silence where you can feel people's hearts breaking, like the air itself was holding its breath. And Cassie? She didn't break down. She wasn't sobbing or shaky. Nah, she was calm, locked in like she'd rehearsed this moment 100 times in her mind. And now, she was finally spilling it all. She told that jury how Diddy allegedly picked out her clothes, dictated her music career, decided who she could talk to, and straight up cut her off from anybody who might have helped her escape. She wasn't his girlfriend. She was his prisoner. But here's where it gets even more disturbing. Diddy's own daughters were right there, front row, listening to every word being said.
Had something to do with the death of his ex-partner and the mother to his children, a woman named Kim Porter. Now, what happened was she mysteriously died of pneumonia at the age of 47. Not the typical way that a 47-year-old goes out, especially just when they are about to publish a tell-all book on their very famous ex.
And it didn't take long before they realized this wasn't just about their dad being controlling or strict. Nah, this was about something way darker, way sicker. And then, boom, the next witness walked up, and it felt like the whole room tensed up. This wasn't just Cassie's story anymore. The next grenade was named Daniel Phillip, a male escort, and he came with trauma and receipts. When he hit that witness stand, people didn't know what to expect. But what came out of his mouth, man, it didn't just shock the courtroom. It shook people down to their core. Daniel claimed Diddy used to pay him thousands to perform with Cassie, while Diddy watched from the corner, giving instructions, touching himself, sometimes even jumping in. And the way the room froze after that, you could feel the truth slamming into everybody at once. Some people in the courtroom were scribbling like crazy, trying to keep up. Others just froze, pens still in their hands. And one woman in the back, she reportedly put her head down and never looked up for the rest of the testimony. That's how heavy it got. And just when you thought it couldn't get any darker, Daniel dropped the baby oil story. Yeah, that baby oil, the one folks have been whispering about online for years. But this time, it wasn't a rumor. It came out in graphic, humiliating detail. He told the court Diddy had rules, not just vague instructions. Rules, how much oil to use, where to rub it, how to make it look natural. Sometimes it was half a bottle. Other times, 2 full bottles. But every single time, it was planned out to the second, like a twisted ritual. Then Daniel paused, took a deep breath, and said Diddy once told him to keep going with it, even while Cassie was, yeah, you read that right. He said it in a courtroom, under oath, with federal prosecutors, journalists, jury members, and Diddy's own daughters sitting right there. It was beyond disturbing. The judge immediately ordered the statement stricken from the record. Mic cut, recess called on the spot. That's how far it went. And that's when it happened. Chance, Jesse, and Delilah stood up and walked out, silent, shaken. One of them clutched her chest like she was struggling to breathe. Another wrapped her jacket around herself like armor and wiped away tears. The last one just looked numb, like she'd watched her whole childhood crash to the ground in real time. Some folks online said it was brave that they even showed up. Others questioned why they were allowed in the room at all. But either way, after that moment, nothing was ever going to be the same again. But here's where it takes an even more twisted turn. Daniel told the court that sometimes Cassie would ask for those acts, but he didn't buy it, not for a second. He said it felt scripted, like someone had fed her the lines. Maybe she was coached, maybe even threatened. Either way, it didn't feel real, and that changed everything. Because now it wasn't just chaos, it was a production. Like Diddy wasn't just living wild, he was directing it, like a movie, with Cassie as the lead actress, and everyone else just background extras in his twisted little fantasy. Then Cassie got back on the stand, and what she said next took it to a whole other level. She told the jury how she was given out, how her body would literally start shutting down from pain and exhaustion. We're talking UTIs, swollen tongue, throat injuries. She even said there were times she needed oxygen just to recover, not from any intimacy, but from acts she never asked for. And still, Diddy allegedly forced her to keep going, like it was her job. Cassie flat out said those freak-offs became a full-time routine. There was no time for healing, no rest, just back-to-back sessions, and whatever strength she had left spent on recovering, barely. And remember that video from 2016, the hotel hallway footage that showed Diddy dragging her? Yeah, that clip made headlines back then. But according to insiders, what the jury saw in this trial, that hallway tape was nothing but child's play in comparison. The new footage played in court was so explicit, so violent, so disturbing. Jurors physically reacted. Some turned their heads away. Others squirmed like they couldn't breathe. That room wasn't just shocked, it was shaken to the core. Cassie sat there and watched that footage with the jury, frame by frame. At first, she kept it together, but when the screen showed her getting shoved and dragged like a rag doll, her voice cracked. She had to stop. You could see her chest rising, trying to breathe steady, like she was right back in that nightmare, like she could still feel his hands on her body. And Diddy sat there cold, no reaction, like it wasn't even him on that screen. At one point, Cassie looked him dead in the eyes, and the whole courtroom froze. You could feel it, that moment where a survivor locks eyes with the man who tried to destroy her. There was no more pretending, no more fear, just that raw, heavy truth hanging in the air. She told the court that Diddy used to say these freak-off sessions made her special, that sharing her was some kind of twisted honor. He said no other woman could handle this kind of love. And she believed him, because back then she was just a teenage girl. And he was 37. He didn't just groom her, he trained her. Cassie admitted it. She loved him back then. She said when he flirted with other women, it made her jealous. So when he asked her to join in on those freak-offs, she thought if she gave him what he wanted, maybe he'd stop cheating. Maybe he'd finally be loyal. But honestly, that's the most heartbreaking part of it all. Cassie wasn't out here chasing fame or drama. She just wanted to be loved. And instead, she got manipulated, broken, and locked in a nightmare she couldn't escape for over 10 years. You could feel the shift in the room. The jury leaned in. Reporters stopped typing mid-sentence. Even a few of Diddy's own supporters looked like they'd been smacked in the face by reality. The weight of it all? Too much, too real. And let's not forget, his daughters were still there. And not just them. His whole family was lined up in that courtroom like it was a family reunion in hell. Mama Janice sat there, stone-faced, cold, unmoving. His sons, Quincy, Justin, and Christian, clenched their jaws, watching everything fall apart in real time, trying to keep it together while the walls around their legacy came crashing down. At that point, nobody even knew why they were really there. Was it to support him? To hear both sides? To be the picture-perfect family his legal team wanted sitting behind him? Whatever the reason, the impact was the same. They weren't just hearing rumors anymore. They were being hit with the truth, living it. Every single detail Cassie shared chipped away at the image they'd grown up believing, that their dad was powerful, untouchable, a king. But the man Cassie described, he wasn't a mogul, he was a monster. By the time the day was winding down, even the toughest courtroom vets looked rattled. But for Diddy's daughters, it was too much. They'd already walked out twice, but what came next broke them completely. Because this time, it wasn't just Daniel's story tearing through the room. It was Cassie, backing every horrifying word he said, and adding even more. She told the court how she was dragged by her hair, slapped across the face, and screamed at for not performing the way he wanted. Then, when it was done, he'd force her to sit and watch while he slept with other women, and even with workers. This wasn't testimony. This was a nightmare unfolding in real time, and everyone in that room felt it, and that was the moment everything fully came undone. Insiders said Diddy's daughters looked like they couldn't even breathe. One had tears silently rolling down her face. Another kept glancing at her grandma like she was begging for a way out. The youngest? She didn't say a word, just stood up with her eyes locked on the floor and walked out. Seconds later, her sisters followed. This time, they didn't come back. Twitter exploded like it was New Year's. People were asking the question on everyone's mind. Why were they even there in the first place? Why make kids, because that's what they still are, sit through trauma this dark, this graphic, this public? One post read, "I wonder if he protected his own children while destroying other people's." Another hit even harder. "Sad they have a monster as a father. Wonder if he ever hit them like he hit Cassie." Then came the wildest speculation, and it wasn't just online noise. Real rumors started flying. People were whispering that one of the young people involved in Diddy's so-called parties might have actually gone to school with one of his daughters. Let that sink in. Now, if you know how big Diddy's inner circle was, assistants, handlers, bodyguards, stylists, you start to realize something. This wasn't just a man running a business. He was running an empire, and in that empire, everyone followed his rules or got cut out completely. And the whispers? They go even deeper. It wasn't just Cassie. Industry insiders say he liked them young, much too young. And it wasn't just women. There are claims he promised fame to boys too, up-and-coming artists, telling them the same lies. You're special, you're chosen. The exact same words he fed to Cassie. This wasn't just manipulation, it was systemic. And now it's all coming to light. So imagine this. One of Diddy's daughters sitting in court, hearing all this horror, and then realizing that someone she knows might have been pulled into that same nightmare. That's not just embarrassing, that's soul-crushing. And what made it even harder to process? The internet didn't hold back. Next thing you know, TikTok started blowing up with edits. The girls smiling at prom, laughing in their dresses, overlaid with audio from Cassie's courtroom testimony. The contrast? Chilling. Folks started asking, are they really okay? Or are they just covering the pain with gowns and fake smiles? Even legal experts jumped in. One attorney straight up called the daughters collateral damage in this public fallout. She said, if these claims are true, imagine what it's like to see your own father exposed like that in front of the world. This wasn't just Diddy versus Cassie anymore. It had turned into a story about the generational wreckage left behind. Kids born into a storm they never saw coming, now stuck living in the debris. And while all this was unfolding, Diddy's legal team was out here trying to spin it like it was some Hollywood breakup. Y'all, they didn't just bring a fire extinguisher to the courtroom. They showed up with a whole gaslight and a fan. His lawyers said this wasn't trafficking, wasn't coercion, just a toxic relationship gone sour, two exes with baggage, as if a decade of freak-offs, secret tapes, and brutal power plays was just your typical celebrity drama. They even had the audacity to question Cassie, not for what she went through, but for why she still had the tapes. They didn't ask why Diddy allegedly recorded her without consent. Nope, they flipped it and tried to paint her as shady, like she was the one holding the knife. But anyone watching could see the game, and it was dirty. So let's get this straight. The defense tried to act like Cassie kept those tapes for fun instead of protection, like she held on to all that trauma just to be messy. Please. But Cassie didn't blink. Not once. She answered every question, even the ones clearly meant to shame her. And when they asked why she stayed with him, her answer stopped the room cold. She said, I met him when I was young. I didn't know any better. I thought it was love. But love doesn't come with bruises like this. And that's when everything shifted. Again, the jury wasn't buying what Diddy's legal team was selling. This wasn't about whether Cassie was believable anymore. This was about him, his habits, his power trips, his manipulation. You could feel it. The energy in that room was different now. Everyone knew. This man wasn't fighting to prove he was innocent. He was fighting to protect his image. And that image was cracking fast. But then, it got even darker. Because those tapes, they didn't just back up Cassie's claims. Some say they might also confirm the rumors surrounding Kim Porter's final days. For those who forgot, Kim was Diddy's longtime partner and the mother of his twin daughters, Jessie and Delilah. She died suddenly in 2018, with the official cause listed as lobar pneumonia. She was only 47, but people never fully believed that story, especially after word got out that Kim had allegedly been working on a tell-all book before she passed. A memoir that mysteriously disappeared after her death. And now, the whispers inside that courtroom are getting louder. One witness for the prosecution, Courtney Guye, claimed he has tapes involving Diddy and 8 other celebrities. He hinted that Kim knew what was going on and was planning to expose it. The craziest part? Some are now comparing Kim's death to Brittany Murphy's, another woman who died suddenly from pneumonia after allegedly getting too close to Hollywood's dirtiest secrets. People aren't just asking what happened anymore. They're starting to ask who's next. So now the question is, can a family bounce back after something this dark? Is Diddy just another celeb being targeted? Or is this the moment the mask finally comes off and the truth refuses to stay buried? Because the spotlight's not moving anytime soon. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to stay in the loop with all the latest tea. hit that notification bell so you never miss an update, and I'll catch you in the next video.